I'd like to call this workshop to order. The time is 12 noon. I wish to welcome you to the Superintendent's Workshop being held in the Joe N. Idlett Jr. TEC. I ask that out of respect to everyone, please silence all electronic devices. Also, if you have any material you wish to share with any board member, please give that to Sarah over here. We will be taking a break every 2 hours if needed before that. Before I turn it over to you, Superintendent, just a quick legislative update. I believe tomorrow is the deadline for filing bills. There have been fast and furious bills being pushed in the last couple of days. It's hard to keep up with. I have an email that I'm forwarding to all of you. I'm going to send it to Sarah and ask her to forward it to all of you with some of the ones that are interesting. That does not include all of them. Tomorrow is at 10 a.m. is the opening day of legislature, and so that's typically when you hear the speeches from the speaker, from the president of the Senate, and from the governor. I've heard through the grapevine that will be very interesting to watch. Appropriations Committee on Pre-K through 12 education, which is an important one because that sets some budget issues for us. That will be taking place on the 14th at 11:30. You can watch all those on the Florida channel. So there are several bills that have been filed, like I said, very interesting ones that have come forward immediately. There are some Schools of Hope ones to revoke them, but those aren't reforms. So that's kind of what we were looking for, is maybe a reform type bill. So we'll see if anything gets filed in the next 24 hours. Recess requirements for middle school is interesting. I do believe we have PE and other things, plus we ban now, and there's a requirement, or ban gives you some PE requirements, so that's interesting. Cursive writing, all kinds of different things that are all over the place. So I will send you that list kind of things that I've been kind of tracking. There are some other ones that I didn't put on this list. For example, little things like IEP. Everybody has to have all the IEP requirements, aligned with title, and I think we already do that. So there are a couple other things that were like little tweaks or things that we're already doing that I didn't really put it on there. But another interesting one is observance of Veterans Day as a holiday. And that hasn't been out there, and I know we've gone back and forth about that here with our schedule. Next year, it's not going to really affect us, thank goodness, because of the way that the calendar looks. But I think in the long run, that will be interesting to see if that goes through, and that kind of sets things for us. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent for the purpose of this workshop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this workshop is to present items for feedback to the board that will ultimately come for approval. We're going to shift the agenda around just a little bit based on individuals' schedules and commitments. So I would like to do item 3E first, which is the review of Sebastian Charter Junior High School contract renewal by Ms. Becerra to lead us off.
Good afternoon, through the chair, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to move up on the agenda. I am pleased to bring to you the Sebastian Charter Junior High School's contract renewal. As briefed in individual board briefings, this is a process that takes place at every 15 years, if that's the term of the contract. And every department in our district reviews their contract, gives feedback, provides suggestions and updates. We're very pleased with the process that we went through. We used the state contract template, and in every situation on this, in every set of criteria, Sebastian Charter Junior High School meets the standard. Any questions? Thank you.
All right. Second item, I'm just going to quickly do Schools of Hope, or present that item. Schools of Hope is, I put...
Excuse me, Madam Chair, point of order, or whatever you want to say. Can we make a public statement about board docs being down for the public not having access? You or the superintendent, whomever.
Yeah, Bruce, are you working on that right now? That's what I thought. They're working on it to get it
I know,
open.
but we still have people watching and needing access or not understanding why. So if we can just make a public statement that, or I just did. So board docs is down, temporarily down, and we are trying to troubleshoot the issues there. So if any citizens are watching and cannot access the agenda or any of the backup information information. Be patient with us as we move forward.
Again, we don't know if it's down for just the district employees or if it's down overall, and they're
Yeah, we
looking
don't-
into that.
Again,
We
just
will-
in case.
It's down for us, and we will provide an update. On that same note, Mr. Heiser just told us some of our cameras are not working on here, and which allows us to shift from person to person, which is a requirement within our policy. So we are in the midst of, well, here comes the cavalry.
Welcome to
Here comes-
2026.
Here comes the cavalry, so we'll get that adjusted and get aligned to policy as soon as the technology allows us to do so. All right. Schools of Hope, item J, just prior to the break, and I thought this was a good practice in meeting with the chair that we continue to put Schools of Hope on the agenda, whether it's a brief conversation or a long conversation, because the potential impacts to our community and ultimately the state of Florida. So there have been, as Ms. Berenborg was saying, a number of items submitted through the legislative process to shift or change, tweak the Schools of Hope legislation. In conversations that I have, I am relatively confident that we're going to see some shifts and changes specifically that would allow Indian River County to be in a safe space. I think Amy, our school board attorney, can add a little bit more depth to that piece of the conversation on a very specific local level to us just prior to the break. We did hear a response from Matter Academy thanking us for the information in which we sent to them. And they asked for additional conversation at my convenience as we enter into the new year. At this point, there's been no additional conversation or engagement from Matter or myself. So we will continue to monitor what's going on in Tallahassee and respond accordingly. But right now, there's no immediate action on my behalf. Amy, would you like to add some?
Sure, through the chair. On Friday, the DOE published a notice of hearing, or a notice of rule development, and they're going to be holding a workshop on the 26th if they get a request to do so on the Schools of Hope. So I submitted a request to do so, not on behalf of Indian River, because I didn't want to run that by you, but just on behalf of myself, and just under the purview that we want to see what's going on. So I thought it was kind of weird that they, and that might be something normal, but they published the notice of rule development if someone asked for it. So a couple of us have asked for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a comment on that because FSBA has also put out a call for board members to do that. And so I forwarded that email to Dorian, asked her to forward it to all of you. And we're thinking that it needs to be done ASAP in the next 3 to 5 days, maybe tomorrow, because it's the rulemaking or the decision to file a bill is by tomorrow. However, leadership can always add something to it. And it's interesting that the DOE is saying this for a rulemaking. It's very questionable as to what that means, but I think they want to hear if people across the state are really interested in this or not. And they don't want to hear from just board members. They want to hear from the community members. So the more we can get it out there to people to make sure that they contact them and let them know that, yes, this does need to be tweaked, it does need to be changed, we do need a rule.
And it's scheduled for the 26th at 10 a.m. tentatively. So
Well, we're asking also
Okay.
for it to go to all legislators. So that's what it
That
is.
email go out yet?
The one that I'm forwarding? I don't know because Dorian's not here, so I'll have to send it to Sarah. Yes.
Thank you very much for that update, and Ms. Berenborg for the, all the updates on legislation. I have spoken to our representative and senators, sent emails, spoken at the legislative delegation. I just think this is something we have to continue to challenge, if you will. I received from FSBA the Duval County and what they have responded to, and it was very, very, very good information, the proposals and all their concerns. And I think when you look at everything with the FTE going to that organization and not to the schools, even though they're in our schools, the one that still causes me the most concern is giving out our fish report. I mean, we're responsible for the safety of our students. And that fish report, if you've ever looked at any of our schools, it gives you the ins and outs of everything. And the other thing, and I know I talked with Mr. Green about this, and this went out to all board members in March. I think it was Mr. Dyer who requested this. When you look at our capital millage, we've gone from 2.0 to 1.5 mil. And over, I think that was 2008 or 2009, it's cost about $150 million. Our community needs to understand, they pay for these buildings. This is our community property tax. So when we're having other people come into our schools, use our classrooms without any pay, we should all have a concern about that. So I just encourage, and I've been doing emails and so forth, for people to understand that it's just not right, and hopefully there'll be some tweaks, because we don't have a low-performing school, and I know the opportunity zone is pretty wide out there as far as how you would really define it, but it's kind of the catch-all they can get if we don't have a low-performing school. So I say we keep going with the good fight, because I think it might make a difference.
So I'm going to add one more thing to that. Two of the bills that are on that email that it was forwarded, is being forwarded to you, talk about basically the fish report and how that needs to be given to the groups that asked for it. So it's interesting how we are obviously communicating our concern about safety. It's getting to legislators, but then they're turning around and saying, no, you need to do it anyway. So those are just two of the bills that have been presented. It's interesting, look at them.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to turn my microphone on. Just an update, Neola's site is down, so it's just not us specifically, it's across the,
If it is up, they said it'll go very slow and you might kick it off, but it is coming and going on there again.
so just in order to honor everyone's time, Ms. Berenborg, I'd like to know if we can do the board discussion items and then revert back to my agenda with those. are
Sure, my
complete.
computer's being updated right now, so I can't access that, but I will. And one of the things I needed to see was in my email, so, yeah, we'll go to that. So artificial intelligence, which are the two emails that I'm waiting on. The task force for Florida has been working. I know you are a member of the task force, and I believe they're meeting today, 3 o'clock.
3:30,
3:30.
Orlando.
And so I know the superintendent's on that task force, and they're looking at guiding principles for school districts to move forward in AI policies and things like that. So I attended Florida School Board Association, the final day. They had an expert on AI come in and talk to us. And, you know, he mentioned a couple of things: proclamations, policies, guiding principles, step by step, exactly what to do. The problem with this is it changes constantly. And so you can put something in place and then it's irrelevant in an hour. So one thing they talked about was possibly having, like we have our own task force, which is why Dr. McMahon is coming forward. And I think on the board side of it, we need to be kind of overarching and look at just making maybe guiding principles of what we believe is important, like school, student safety, things like that. And then have the task force that we have kind of working on the day-to-day, kind of like what we do with our superintendent, you know, come up with the overarching goals and principles, and then have them do that work. Dr. McMahon, you want to mention what the task force has been doing?
Sure, thank you, through the chair. Part of the, Marlon? Part of the strategic plan, or an item on the strategic plan, was to design a task force. And so we convened a cross-departmental group of individuals, so it's not just technology, it's not just curriculum, it's many of our organizational departments came together, and exactly as you said, Ms. Berenborg, the design of it was to establish core values and guiding principles. AI is out there. It's not like we can go back in time before AI was even an issue and do this. So in a way, what we're doing is, as we are using these tools, we're starting to develop some guidance for various stakeholder groups on how to use AI specific to their stakeholder group. A parent and their approach will be very different than a child, will be very different than a teacher, will be very different than you guys. And so that work is being done cross-departmentally with staff members. We do have a working document in draft stage of core values and guiding principles, and our next step is to start to action plan some of these guiding principles.
So one thing we talked about is kind of back in the day when the calculator came forward, and math teachers were like, no, they can't use a calculator, you know, that'd be cheating. And now, of course, we use it as a tool. And so I think it's more of a teaching kids how to use AI as a tool versus cheating or whatever else they want to use it for, which is sometimes not in a good way. Like, for example, a guiding principle for a parent would be, you know, at what point should my student use AI for their homework or not use AI for their homework? Because you want your child to learn math, and so you don't want them just to find it somewhere and put it down. You know, that's the same thing as people were arguing with calculators years ago. So it's kind of the same.
Absolutely. I was a geometry teacher for a long time, and so sometimes when you're teaching geometry, if there's some heavy computations, students are stuck on the computations rather than the geometric concept you're teaching. So just like you said, a calculator for that point, I'm not teaching the mathematics, I'm teaching the geometry concept, so it allows them to quickly get the answer and focus on the actual. So AI is a tool. It is, it's not this HAL 3000 where it's taking over everything. Right now, it is a tool that we can allow our teachers, our students to speed up the learning process in places, but they need that guidance. They need to know, how can I use this to protect students' interests?
Yeah, so one of the things they were bringing up is that, like, Seminole County came up with some really interesting guiding principles that were interesting to look at. And the Task Force for State of Florida also has them. And so I kind of looked at both of those and kind of meshed them myself to say, okay, how can these work? And they were really good principles. I mean, things that I think our board needs to come up with a policy of just guiding principles and then kind of leave it open like that, because otherwise we're constantly going back to it every week and changing things. And we could get stuck in the weeds on this. And so we need to be really cautious how we move, but we need to move. I mean, there are things that are happening already. One of the things they showed us was how you can create music. You can just tell them, you know, I want you to create a song about our district, and boom, it creates a song. It's amazing. Anything else you want to add?
I can respond to questions if you'd like, but I think.
One of the thoughts that I had or reflections I had in meeting during individual board briefings is to bring back Dr. McMahon in team for a more thorough presentation regarding the work that the committee is doing, which just keeps the pace and cadence in terms of the work that we're doing. As he mentioned, it is ever-changing and quickly changing. But the team has done a significant amount of work to set the foundation in order to ensure that we have the systems around learning, how to appropriately use and interact with AI to continue to learn as fast as we need to learn, while at the same time maximizing how we're using our time to improve student outcomes. So that's been the focus of this work, and I think it's been done in a way that it literally, you know, sometimes we're moving, I think other systems may look at us and say that we're moving very, very slow, but we're moving very, very slow to move very, very, very fast. And taking a very thorough and deep approach. So just to give the honor and reverence to the work that team is doing, allowing them to come in and make a very brief presentation to the board regarding that body of work may be a very good natural next step.
Right, and I know there are other districts like Miami that doesn't even have a policy, and they just have a task force, and they're moving on that. But I think it's important that we have at least overarching guiding principles, that we put it out there for our parents to say, this is acceptable, this isn't, and, you know, it aligns with the student code of conduct, too. So, board members, any comments?
Sure.
Yes, Dr. Poskin?
Yeah, I think this is a great conversation, and one we've had a few times, but some of the core, I guess, guiding principles for me would be, and some of it's stated already, that, you know, the students shouldn't be using it unless explicitly instructed that they can. The default should probably be no AI tools are used. And then we already have punishments in place for misuse, so that's something we already have by policy, whether it be using video AI to make a video of your friend or something. You know, another concern or something to discuss is that these AI tools have a lot of limitations, and a lot of people I know, and I've messed around with it, you know, you can ask it to create a PowerPoint presentation on, you know, personal finance, so you can teach personal finance. It sometimes puts things in there that are blatantly inaccurate and false. So when kids are using this as a research tool to better understand something, there will be times where they're learning things that are blatantly false, and the AI put something out that was incorrect. That still happens routinely, which goes to the teacher side. If the teachers are using this to help make their presentations and help make their lessons plan, the AI could inadvertently be including false information into the lesson. And, you know, I think that at the end of the day, it's a tool. There should be classes where they learn how to use it, because ultimately, wherever they go in life, they're probably going to be using some AI tool at their job. So it is something we want them to get familiar with, but we also don't want it to interfere with their learning. So there's definitely going to be a balance.
Board Docs is back.
Oh, is it back up?
Yeah,
Okay,
it
Board
looks
Docs is
mine-
back up.
Mine is, mine just came up.
Okay. Mr. Dyer, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I think that, I like the idea of the task force, and I like the ideas of kind of guiding principles. I think that it is much too early. There's nothing that we're going to do to change it, and I think there's a lot going on right now at both the state level and the task force that you're on, Dr. Moore, as well as here, and I think that we shouldn't be too premature. We should get a lot more information, actually come up with the guidelines, but other than that, I think that to make any big policy change or any announcement, which is going to change in 2 weeks anyway, that it's probably best to just to keep on the steady course of developing the guidelines and continuing to research it through the task force.
Dr. Jones?
Just follow up on what Dr. Pasca said. There was information on an English teacher who gave an assignment to her students, and she said, use AI for this essay, use all of AI. So they turned it in. She turned it back and said, okay, now you are to go and find out what is correct and what isn't correct. 55% was not correct. And as far as, our kids are very much on top of this, but I believe, when you look at our school board policy, 7540.08, it's pretty specific, and we did this last year. In our code of conduct, page 55, we may have to even go in and tweak that. I don't know, because we did this last year.
Right.
But the guiding principles, I think, have to be overarching, and they have to just kind of go clearly what we want to do. Dr. McMahon and Dr. Jacobs gave a great presentation, and I spoke to many board members after the session I was in. They wanted to get some more information about how we're doing this, having a task force. And I like the committee because it's just not IT, it's people all over. It has to be our teachers, our support staff. It has to be, I think parents would be great on that too if we need parents. But I think the most important thing you said, Dr. McMahon, is how do we help our parents? Obviously with teachers, we'll have the staff development, but even parents. Went to Texas with my 10-year-old grandson, and he's telling me what to use, and so forth. And so I have to, research this for him. And the other thing, one last thing on the English teacher, and she said to her students, Google is not a primary source. That's how they're thinking. Google this, and this. So I think that we keep the task force, keep us updated, have a diverse task force with many employees, and just continue to look at it and have those principles be overarching, because the minute we say something, it's going to change. Thank you.
Mr. Zarian?
It's so funny that you mentioned that, Dr. Jones, because I remember a time when Google was not in the dictionary as a verb. And obviously, when that happened, it was in the news, front page, Google is now a verb. You can Google it. But yeah, I think one of the items that I had here for discussion was an AI proclamation, which I'm very happy to come back to at another date. I think that a lot of the things that we are talking about is captured in this proclamation. The proclamation it doesn't set policy, but what the intent of it was, and for those, if you've read it, was really just to provide a public statement of the purpose of the way of work around AI for us here at the district, which is everything that we're currently doing, but codified in this proclamation. It just gives way for the work towards that end in this AI world. I think that AI can be extremely helpful. It does amazing things. I also think it can be extremely dangerous. My biggest worry is that we have diminished the ability for student, not we as a district, we in general, have diminished the ability for students when technology became the thing, just in general. And obviously you see kids on their iPads all the time and gaming and sitting in front of a TV or a screen. You know, they're not very many of them are out climbing a tree and digging for worms and, being active as we were, as my generation was when I was growing up. I mean, as soon as 3 p.m. came around, went home, changed clothes, went out, didn't come home until it was dawn or dusk, sat for dinner, and then you did your homework,
Hopefully dusk.
I mean, dusk. But yeah, so that's the way that it was, and and no cell phones, no anything, and I remember my mom used to raise the window. We lived on the 4th floor in an apartment building, and she would, yell out the window, "Time to eat," and everyone else did that. But I think that with AI, I worry tremendously about students relying on the ability of AI over their own ability to think for themselves. And that's really a problem for me. So I think that the biggest thing when we're talking about principals is that AI should be a pilot, a co-pilot rather, and it should never ever replace the person. It should never ever replace a teacher. I think it should never ever replace the ability of students to be able to self-direct or to make decisions or to create assignments. I mean, our policy now states that the utilization of AI tools is strictly prohibited for students to complete homework. We already have that in policy, which is great. That's what we worked on last year, so that we can hold on to the values of individualized thinking and creativity and problem solving and communication and all the things that, I believe that we hold to be important in our district and in our community as values. So leading with that values-driven mindset, that's really where this proclamation came in. There are some, if you take a look at it, Dr. McMahon, I'd love to be able for us to create district guiding principles, overarching ideas. But in here, there are some that I certainly think are very, very important that I've outlined here. And it is in that last section that actually provides that the school district shall ensure safeguards. We have to provide safeguards around AI, even though we want children to be able to learn how to use it correctly and accurately. But I think AI literacy, ethical use, student protections, data privacy, security for staff and students, all those things should be non-negotiable. I think those are critical to what we do as a district and moving forward. I don't think that we need to be like the Joneses. Just because everybody is doing it doesn't mean that we should be doing it too. I think that taking it slow is the right thing for us. Creating a task force that is not just a handful of people. I think we need more than just a handful of people on our district task force, because there are so many. There's such a way for this could go awry, and because it's so fluid, we have to allow for that fluidity, but at the same time, create those guardrails so we don't go off track. I like what we are doing. We've talked about this before, that we are starting at the top and coming down, which is training administrators how to use it, how to appropriately, access whatever it is that they're going to access, training teachers, and then all the way down so that students are really the last ones on that totem pole. And I'm okay with that because it could be so dangerous. I will say, I don't know, I'm going to open it up to you, Dr. McMahon, if you'd like, or Dr. Moore, or anybody. The one thing that I do also fear, and I know I shouldn't fear, but I fear chatbots. Individual personalized chatbots they can be extremely dangerous for students who don't know how to use it properly. And now there are apps, of course, we know that they can access it outside on their own, on their phone, on their iPads, but these things create personalities, they create really dangerous relationships with students where students think this is now my best friend or this is a real person. And some students have even been interviewed and said, you know, you do know that this is not a real person, and they, I don't care, you know. And that's scary. That is so scary to me. So I don't know if we can get to a point where we can create, and that's not in our policy at all. I'm okay with our current policy. I just don't want to allow for these kinds of things. So if you want to open up on anything that I just mentioned.
I'm going to say something to that, because I already brought that up to the superintendent, and, you know, I think that's something that we need to educate parents on, because they don't know that those bots are out there. I'm telling you, they don't. And so that's something I think we need to put in our Title I nights or whatever, but we need to educate our parents.
Yeah, and I would just piggyback that we probably don't want these chatbot-type AI tools to be available to the kids. It should be something more productive, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. I know there's at least one case where the chat box helped to convince a kid to commit suicide. It encouraged it, it gave them ideas on how to do it, and ultimately, the kid probably would have never committed suicide had it not been for that AI tool that helped him do it. So obviously, we don't want any tools like that in the hands of our kids.
So I was going to bring up like the task force, a couple of the guiding principles, but according to our district, that is not a secure connection that we can connect to, is the state's task force
there you
for
go.
AI. So, never mind. So I just wanted to bring it up there that, you know, there are districts that are moving forward with policies and proclamations, things like that. I think, like we're doing right now, going slow, letting the task force kind of build things, bringing it back to the board to let us know what's going on, and overarching principles about safety and things like that, I think are where we need to go.
And I do appreciate it, through the chair. I looking at our draft core values is very much in line with what you guys are saying.
With the
first one,
proclamation.
protect with integrity. Second one, act ethically. Third one, build trust through transparency. We are educators first, and we recognize that AI is a tool, much like a pencil, a calculator. And so we want to do it to protect ultimately students, and then obviously build them up to be educated citizens. So I appreciate the immediate feedback, because it definitely does confirm our work that we are in line with your desires, however short the feedback is, but definitely. So thank you.
So just as a,
No, you're probably going to say it, but you said that you were going to bring back an item for, regarding AI and what the task force is doing. Go ahead.
I was going to simply add to that statement that we would take the items within the proclamation and then align those items to the presentation. So if there's gaps, we can discuss them as a whole.
Sure.
So that would allow the board to make a decision regarding next possible steps.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. And obviously, a proclamation is not going to determine policy, but it does align with our policy, and it is certainly a public declaration that we are dedicated to this moving forward. So I appreciate it. And I look forward to the workshop on this item.
Next item, Hall of Fame for high schools. There are several high schools that do this. Our high schools do not. I talked to both of our principals about it. They're both very excited about it. It's a way of honoring alumni in your school, but also reminding them of where they came from, in case their success maybe could lead to some sort of support for the school as well. But there are some really interesting things out there. Some are just for athletics. Some I think are really interesting because they're for like military, people that have gone on to serve in the military, people that have gone on to become artists or whatever else. So there are two links that I put on the board docs. One is the NFHS kind of guidelines for creating a Hall of Fame. It's more based on athletics than anything else. The second one I brought up was interesting. It is a company that creates these, and you think of a Hall of Fame, like my daughter's college, they have a Hall of Fame, and she was inducted into it. And when we went there, They basically made a plaque of her face and all her accomplishments, and then put it in a room, and that was nice, and they're in the room. Well, it was a nice honor and nice to go to, but, nobody ever looks in that room, so it was kind of an interesting thing. Whereas these are displays that are up where kids can access them, and they can look and see what they can achieve, or a goal to look forward to, or somebody in their school that went to their school that achieved something that maybe they want to achieve. So they can make those connections with their alumni. So I just thought it was a neat thing to do. Of course, they'd probably have to fundraise to be able to do a display like that or something to that effect. But I just thought it was a nice way for our district, especially since Vero Beach High School's been putting out those social media blips about their alumni. It was really nice to see. I know they've gotten some feedback on that about, okay, you didn't include this and you didn't include that. So there is always that downside to when you put out something you think it's going to be positive, and then somebody decides to make it a little not positive. But I think something like this, where you actually contact the alumni and say, hey, we'd like to honor you, can you give us the bio? So that we're getting it right from the alumni or their family. So ideas or comments about this?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thanks.
I think it's a great way to honor our students and improve feelings of community longitudinally. I think it's an awesome idea.
Good, great. Dr. Jones?
Great idea. National Federation of High Schools I worked with when I was at the State High School Athletic Association, they did a Hall of Fame. They have good guidelines, but I like the fact that it's just not athletics, that we really look at people who've made an impact. And, once you get a committee going, the school's going, I think it could be very, very successful. And I will add one thing. The minute you put one person out there, they'll say, what about this person? So you've got to have a diverse group of people looking at it, looking at the selection and what's the criteria and so forth. But anytime we can recognize anyone, I think it's positive.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I think the task is, to put it out there to say, come up with the requirements, or the committee requirements, so getting the committee together to create the requirements. That's what I'm asking for. Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, too. I told Dr. Moore when I first saw that come on the agenda that in a tour I did with the Florida Council of 100, we were down at Northwest was the high school?
Northwestern.
Northwestern in Miami. And we were sitting there and talking with the principal and touring that school, which was a very tough school that had come around a bit. I think it was under his tutelage for a long time. And you actually principal there?
Oh, no, it's
No.
counterpart, it's a rival.
Right. But anyway, as we were walking through, the principal was talking about we need alumni support to do this and this, and one of the guys with us looked over on their Hall of Fame wall, and they said, well, the guy right there is a multi-billionaire attorney that lives in West Palm Beach. You ought to call him. So, I think it's very good. There's a lot of people out there that have been very successful in our community who do feel a loyalty, and it would be nice to honor them. I think also we heard about Oslo. It's a good way to put that in the Hall of Fame, too. There's other ways to honor people that have made a difference in our community and been part of the community. So, good idea.
Mr. Rosario, you want to speak?
It's a great idea. Academics Hall of Fame, Social Hall of Fame, Community Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, all of it is a great idea. I think that, though, one question that I had, was it intended for individual schools or communities to create their own guidelines and standards for it? Or is that something that the district should create so that everyone looks through the same filter?
I'm going to ask the superintendent, I've been discussing it with him, and ask him to come up with kind of the way he thinks it should go with guidelines for the high schools. Each high school is unique. However, I agree, I think they need overarching goals and guiding principles, let's put it that way.
So I will definitely take the feedback, and this is a great conversation. One of my ideas or thought is to do it at the biggest possible level. Being here going on, 6 years, the degrees of separation in Indian River County are a lot of things start here, a lot of things are birthed here, a lot of great people who are doing great things in other spaces or places are graduates of our system. So the opportunity to both have a legacy in terms of individuals who have done things for the last 30 or 40 years. So I don't know if it needs to be high school specific, but for the district's, you went to this particular school, and then creating very specific categories. A lot of times, as we do something, because it will be new, and because it's honoring the greatness, and there is so much greatness, if I can take some of the burden of the process, the selection, the identification off the schools, and create something that is very comprehensive. So for whenever this is done and approved, moving forward, it allows us every year to induct folks into the Hall of Fame based on their contributions. But as you're starting, there is a potential of not getting it right, and I don't want to have that to be on the schools.
Right.
I'd rather absorb that myself.
No, I agree with that.
So
I-
putting
I-
together a process that allows us to say, folks that have been doing it for 30 or 40 years, they're in this pace, that they have all of the greatness into the Hall of Fame. We have hundreds of people who need to be in the Hall of Fame, but aren't because we haven't created it yet.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I just think you need to think about where you want to put a display. It needs to be somewhere where community members can see it. It needs to be not maybe in this district office. It needs to be at the schools.
Well, we should put it at the playground because everyone
Or
is
the
there.
playground, yes. They're already using it, you're right. I was stopped the other day and said, are we allowed to be on the playground? Because I see
They're
people out
there.
there. Yeah, may I? Yes.
So that's exactly one of the reasons why I asked, because I think it's important for us to be able to create the rules of who gets selected and how and why. And we have people who do great things in our community all the time, who make an impact all the time. But I'm not so sure that you use the word legacy. I think that's an important word. I'm not so sure that those people who do great things have that legacy. The longevity and the commitment to the work in our county, I think, should be a part of it. And you captured it well when you explained, when you used the word legacy. So maybe that's really, I'm glad. Yeah, because it does remove from the schools, who do we select and who do we not? Somebody who donates a large amount for the naming of a gym floor may be a one-time event. Not that that's not wonderful, it's incredibly important, but it doesn't carry that weight of, long-term commitment to the work of the schools and the school district. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, Dr. Jones?
Just one last thing. To tell you how important our community is, when I was at the state level, I had the privilege of facilitating the state committee that put Billy Livings on the State Hall of Fame. And then a few years before that, it was Bill Wilson. So, our community shines.
Yes, sir? Did you want to wrap it up?
I will take that information back. Create a program itself and bring that program back to the board.
Okay, next item is the naming policy 7250. So we changed this a lot of bit, and almost too much, I think. It's kind of limiting sometimes for you to be able to go through the naming. Also, it kind of puts us in a position where a committee will come up with something, and then the board has to approve it or not approve it, and so it puts us in a position of saying no to community members that have done the work. So maybe looking at it a little differently, because we are going to have the chance, and we already are, for naming rights for things. And like you said, there have been schools where you've gone visited and seen, the name on a science slab and wherever. And so, yes, those opportunities should be out there, but we just need to maybe look at this policy and tweak a little. And so I asked the superintendent if you could kind of come up with a sample or an idea of how to tweak it.
Mr. Barrenborn?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, I'm just asking you
Oh,
to
no,
present that first.
So I think in that conversation, you are correct. This is a policy that's relatively new in terms of when it was created. We've now had the opportunity to implement it, I think, 3 times as a total. And I agree with the structure within the policy. But now that we've implemented it, I think there's opportunities to kind of streamline it just a little bit so we could be a little bit more fluid from a staff perspective, not changing the intent of the policy, but for us to be as fluid and as fast as we possibly can. That's one body of work, which is minimal. The other is to ensure that the board remains the ultimate authority, and there's no contradiction in terms of folks wanting to do something and bringing a recommendation to you in which you would say no. And the reality is that part of that work would be my work. And the other issue, we took a team, as we're doing this innovation work, to J.D. Henderson, which is a lab school with FAU. I've been there 2 or 3 times now, had the opportunity to do a presentation there, had the opportunity to tour there. It is absolutely a school. It does not receive any capital funds, but for you to walk that system, it is a charter school, so it follows the same requirements in terms of academics as we do. It is beautiful, state-of-the-art technology, a very structured program around they have their own, and very similar, they have their own fund, very similar to us. So coordinating the opportunities, so when we're doing the work for raising funds, there is ability to give authority to myself or through me. When folks want to donate for a space or a place, we have the ability to do so and bring it back a recommendation to the board versus some of the procedural things. So haven't thoroughly thought it through, but I think it would be worth a look in order to ensure, now that we are moving as fast as we are, and we need every dollar we can possibly have, is there a way to create a policy that allows us to give the board comfort in terms of the appropriate process and community input, while at the same time looking at other things that gives us the ability to improve the resources and materials that we're putting in the hands of our students and teachers. So that would be my thoughts as you're discussing this.
Right, the intent of reason bringing this up is I just felt like things are getting bogged down. And how we can make this a little bit more streamlined would be nice. Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, I'd like to say, I think that the ability to recognize donors as we need funds going forward is great, but this A.D. Henderson School, I've been there probably 6 or 7 times and contribute to the school. I think that if the board wanted to do a workshop at A.D. Henderson and just see what they've done, I mean, why couldn't we do that? Why can't we take a field trip and try to understand how, the attorney can go with us. We'll go on the plane. And that way we'll know everything is fine.
As long as you have cameras, because people, you
We'll have
can't
somebody,
ask
we'll
your
have a
community members to
videographer
travel.
follow us around and be there at all time. I mean, whatever we need to do. But I think for the board, you know, even a jury can go out to the crime scene. I mean, certainly the board ought to, as a body noticed, ought to be able to do something to get more information that you can all see at one time. So, I mean, I would be happy to facilitate that if the board is interested in doing something like that. I think that it is an opportunity for us, and it really kind of was brought home to me when we got that Florida Power and Light playground, which I thought was terrific. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do that will benefit people in the community, will benefit our school system, and will actually be very, very nice for all the things that we can do for innovation in this system. So if the board is interested and we can figure out how to do it, I'll be happy to facilitate it. And I think it would be well worth it. It's eye-opening to see what they have done for 2 reasons. One is the giving and the philanthropy which is available in this community. By the way, the Art Museum just raised $100 million in this community. So I would think that there's probably room for people to support outstanding public education that we have. So that's number one. Number two, a lot of the programs that I see there are things that we can do in this community. I mean, you'll see a biolab with a shark researcher that, I mean, it's incredible stuff going on. But we have Jeff here at Vero Beach High School with an amazing biolab. How can they take it down to 5-year-olds in their bio lab or biochemistry or whatever they're doing. And it's absolutely unbelievable. So I think there are things that are good for curriculum. I think there's things good for contribution, and I think it would be good for the board to do corporately. Yes, Madam Chair, you, sorry.
Mr. Rosario?
I think it's a great idea. I'm not so sure that you could facilitate it for us during a workshop because we have a chair to do that. But I think what you mean is that you would organize it and open the door
I
for
would
us to be
organize
able
it.
to.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I think it's a great idea.
In the chair.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
In the chair or chair? On the
No,
plan.
no, it's a great idea, and you know, St. Lucie County, when they went through several floods some years ago, and they would have their board meetings at different schools. And it actually gave the community another perspective on their schools, because they could visit different schools rather than just going to one building where their board meetings typically were. I mean, now they're all in one building, but it's the same concept, and sure, we can definitely do a field trip. We already got the hand clap from our attorney, so that's a good thing.
Oh, we did,
Yeah. No, we can't, I mean, I know that we can have, I'm sure you'll do the work, but I know that we can have meetings elsewhere as long as they're
Yeah.
publicly noticed, and certainly, I think the video is something to consider. I think it's a great idea. I've always been one for stepping out of the box and doing something different, so. The one thing, though, that I will say about this policy, I've talked with the superintendent about this multiple times, and Ms. Envil as well, that there's a lot of things in this policy that are very contradictory. This is the one policy that we did talk about multiple times that needs to be changed. There are things in here that say you have to have a community forum, and then there is a line that says the superintendent may recommend other names. So it's, which is it? You know, and then the board has the final say, so then the board can actually create it. I think we need, when we do this, Dr., huh?
clean up.
Yeah, no, more than just cleanup, rewording needs to happen. But I do think that there also needs to be rules, separate rules for different things. And this is the part of the policy that I think would be easier for us to be able to manage. For example, renaming an office space or renaming a corridor might be different than renaming an entire new building, or renaming an entire, not renaming a new building. A new building gets a new name. Renaming an entire building like we did with Pelican. That process might be different from the renaming of a brand-new facility. So those processes need to be identified in this policy differently. So where it says here, commemoration, never liked commemoration, by the way, just renaming. Naming and renaming. So yeah, if we could clean, fix it, restate it, do whatever it is, but 1,000% this needs to be rewritten, and I know Ms. Envil knows my concerns on it, and Dr. Moore, so long overdue.
And that is why I brought it up, because it really does need to be not just tweaked, yeah.
First of all, I will go on the field trip. That's a go. I think we're all honorable. We will not discuss things that we know that could possibly be on an agenda. I've been on the one policy for Dr. A. Ronald Hudson, who is truly a living legend. A lot of work. The ones that just named for Coach Lowendick, they're following it, and they just would check with me on board policy to make sure it's correct. We revised this policy after Gifford Middle was changed back to its original mascot and colors. I thought that's one of the best things we ever did for the Gifford community, so I stand by that very clearly. And it should be, I believe, it's supermajority decision, and I know every board member in here was very positive toward that change. But it certainly needs to be tweaked a lot, and it needs to work for us. The one last thing is, I was a little confused. We're going through the most transition this school district has ever seen, and I've been here 45 years. And I think Dr. Moore and his team went out about 20 times. I only was there 2 or 3 times. And I listened to the community whenever I was there. And I just think that in general, these are the kind of things which is exceptional. I believe somewhere in the school board policy, if there's an exception, You know, to go through the fact that we had to name it Vero Beach Middle and go through all of that, we've got too much work to do. Those are the things I think where the board can say, okay, this is a go, we can do this, supermajority. If we get it, we get it, if we don't, we don't. So that's the kind of tweak we really need to look at and be more specific, as Ms. Rosario said, a lot of things here that maybe contradict, so that we don't make it hard on the community to do this, and we don't make it hard on us. So, but back to my first point, I'm ready to go.
Do you have
Yeah,
anything you want to say?
I'm interested in the field trip. I'd be interested in that. And I also support renaming the renaming policy.
Renaming the renaming policy. Okay, then.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The one thing also that I'd like Ms. Enville to kind of take a look at is the idea of supermajority. We've had this conversation before. Honestly, it's just dumb, because the supermajority is still just the majority. It doesn't make
No, it's
a
not.
difference. Yes, it is. Yeah. So if we could kind of, you still need 3 of 5, and if you have 4, you still need 3. So you still need 3 either way. There's no supermajority there.
Discussion?
Do you want to say something on it? Okay.
Worded and.
Well, what's
I
the
don't-
difference then?
I don't, in this particular case, I think it said a supermajority of the board members, which would always be 4.
4.
Depending on if there was 4 there or if there was not 4 there. So, you know,
That's true.
so.
But if you have 4,
If you don't really, I mean, to me, if you're going to do a supermajority, which I don't always recommend because there are circumstances in which you may not be able to
Right.
have a supermajority
Exactly.
available or present. But I think it would be an exceptional circumstance, like if it's going to be like some sort of emergency renaming, which I don't know what that would be, so. But I do think we need to look at it. I would recommend we look at Neola's template and see how
Okay.
it differs from what we have right now and then go from there. But I agree, the commemoration is a weird.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Jones.
I'm going to look back at the notes on that as far as in the discussion. Do you remember what meeting that was? Because I want to review all of that. Anybody
The
remember?
meeting
It
was,
we
no,
put it
I
in
have no-
January
We're
25.
talking about the
That was with,
supermajority.
I'm just talking about the,
Supermajority.
when we brought this policy 72.
Yeah,
when I
that
was
was
in
with
Last
Mr.
revised on 8/28/23.
Yeah, I think that was with Mr. Ansbacher. For some reason, that
Say.
sounds familiar to me. I just don't
thank you.
remember which one.
Okay, next item was the AI proclamation, but I understand you're going to put that on
We
hold.
just did it, yeah. We
Okay.
just talked about it
So-
within the item, the
So
So
previous.
just
now
a
we're moving
quick
to your
update.
items.
I think visiting is so important for the board, because really what we're talking about is what every child needs in a public school. And when you look at this county specifically, and Mr. Dyer, I'm just repeating what he said, the giving in this community, organized correctly, we can have the exact same thing you're going to see at this particular school. It is a public school. It is what our children deserve. We have designed ourselves in a way to be able to deliver if we have those resources. And I think going and you seeing and saying, this is what we're trying to create would be absolutely outstanding. On the back of innovation, I'd be remiss, Saturday, we had our innovation showcase of schools. It was a twofold event. Typically, it is a big lift. Ms. Christofoli led that lift, but above and beyond the organization, which was spot on, the presentations or performances by our students, we also had to help 3 schools, actually 4 schools, 6 schools combined to 3 schools. And it absolutely, those were the busiest tables at the event. They were there with everything that's been approved, their programming, their themes.
new shirts.
The
New
new
shirts threw me
shirts. That work, Dr. Jacobs has been leading or coordinating through the rest of the team. It was a very, very proud moment. And then just this morning, Dr. Jacobs told me this consortium in Georgia reaching out to say, how did we go through that particular process? We're not done. But you're right, Dr. Jones, that is the biggest shift in terms of the layout and organization of our public school system. And the way it's being done is probably the hardest, most logistical way of doing it. But at the end of the day, the authors of this reform are going to be the folks in our classrooms at our particular schools who are leading this work. So just absolutely outstanding day for me.
Can I mention a parent who is a PTA president told me please rename it back to schools of choice, because parents were confused as to what was going on. Am I supposed to go there and choose, find out what school to choose, or is this just, I'm learning what everybody's just putting on performances? So they said, just please bring it back to schools of choice or
All right, well,
choice
we
schools.
will, Dr. Jacobs will be
That came
scheduling
from
our
a parent.
after-action review, and we will look at that. Now, returning to our regular scheduled programming. I've had some dental work, folks. I just might as well say it for the entire community, and for the next 4 or 5 months, I'm going to sound very weird. Cameras are up, board docs is up, we are functioning at 100%. Mr. Alberti, item A.
Hello? All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Moore, and board members. This is the quarterly update for the third quarter of the year from the Office of Safe Schools. They've come out since and inspected 6 schools, 3 of them traditional and 3 of them chartered, and everybody has passed with full compliance. That brings us to a total of 8 schools inspected, 29% with everything being good. So that's really a good report to provide. Just so you know, they do have 5 domains they inspect when they go to a school, and these are unannounced visits, so nobody's getting a heads up that they're coming. So this is really good report to provide. Dr. Moore, that's all I have.
So I'm going to make a comment on that, because there are 2 bills that are being proposed for safety equipment requirements for all schools. I looked and it's like, okay, well, public schools are pretty good. It's charter schools, I think, that are going to have a change of some sort. So, for example, fencing, things like that. So that was, it was kind of interesting to see. There are 2 bills out there that are being proposed for that.
That's excellent. Yep, you want me to go ahead and go through? Okay, yep, I can provide an update on the other one. So the next item, it's 3B, it's a review of the amendment and local agreement for buses. If you remember, the board wanted to make an amendment to that bus agreement. Ms. Rosario suggested to ensure that we had priority for uses of our buses. So they, unfortunately, on December 1st, we were not able to get that done within the workshop and the actual business meeting. So we got it done this go around, so this coming back to you around for that additional line that will say that we do have priority of use for our buses. And that is line under 2, purpose and intent, and also line 4A on that agreement.
Great, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, through the chair, I'm just going to review the instructional calendar for 2026-2027. I wanted to give a little shout out to Dr. Robin Hardy, Dr. David Erickson. We had CWA and IRCEA members on the committee. We also had staff and parents and some community members, so great collaborative effort. Starting on the 10th, August 10th, obviously August 4th is our district professional learning day, going into September, Labor Day, scheduled day off on the 21st, October, right after conference nights, and then the 30th off, which, you know, right near Halloween, good to know. And moving into November, Veterans Day we have off, and then Thanksgiving week, winter break, into January. We come back, the students come back on the 6th, Martin Luther King Day, our 2nd semester professional learning day, going into February with President's Day and conference night for the spring. March, spring break, Good Friday is on the 26th, so it is over spring break. And then moving into April with a scheduled day off, into May, and the last day of school for students is Memorial Day.
And then just one additional item, Madam Chair. Our goal next year is to get this item approved December or earlier. I know my family included, they look at the calendar for during December while they're all together, and us to get this approved in January. We've got to set a goal for ourselves to get it approved before we go on that Christmas break. So we will do that moving forward.
For sure. And the committee is already working on the draft for the 27-28. They just met last week.
One thing I'm going to warn you about is about the Veterans Day bill that's being proposed. They might want to keep that in mind. Okay.
Took note when you mentioned that. So my other item is 3D. This is just a review for the request for increased spending authority for D-Kona ice cream, not Kona ice, D-Kona. This is one of our vendors for food and nutrition, and this will support the increased demand at the schools. This is the company that provides options that are, you know, lower in sugar, skim milk, et cetera, options. And this would be for the remainder of this year, up to 145,000. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. The first item is a review of the second semester out-of-field reports. This might change slightly before the board meeting because we keep it as up-to-date as possible, but twice a year we bring those back. We're required to send notification to parents of teachers who are out of field. That could be a variety of reasons. They just got their stuff together. Maybe we bring them in as a guest educator or a long-term
Just got their
substitute.
stuff together.
Guest educator. And so the total this time is 133 between all subject area and ESOL. 35 of those are ESOL only, so that's up 16 from first semester. However, 12 of those are guest educators. And then 4 of them are just changing courses in subject areas as teachers do. So we expect that in the middle of the year because movement happens and we have that. But we have in place.
Does that represent a 10% turnover, basically, since the first of the year?
No, it's just there's 16 more out of field added, but 12 of them are guest educators added. They came on and filled a spot and they're out of field and we have to notify them. We provide reimbursements on the fees of the $75 fees for ESOL, for the 5 reading endorsements. We offer courses in Canvas. For the ESOL, we offer courses in Canvas. Each principal meets with them and develops a plan and uploads that in a course on Focus. So this is your second semester report as we are required to present. The second item is a review of the capital 5-year plan, and as you're aware, there's a website where we are supposed to put the 5-year work plan. That website is supposed to be up by October 1st. Last year it wasn't. It is still not up. So we're just going to go ahead and approve our local plan. You approved the budget on September 9th, which has the capital budget for this particular year that we're working on. This plan takes that work plan and puts it in a user-friendly format that people can read and understand, and it's laid out from 26 to 30. We're operating in the 25-26 capital plan now. I bring those items to you as board items when they're over 50,000. You approve certain roofing projects. We're doing Liberty now. You approve windows to be replaced at Treasure Coast through a hurricane grant. We're doing those now. Parking pickup loops. So your capital budget, you'll notice it's roughly $52 million of revenue. By the time you back out $10 million for debt service, $10 million for salaries, $3.4 for charters, $1 million for impact fees, you're looking at about $26 million of actual funds that we work with in this plan. This plan lays those out: school-based projects, roofing, flooring, life safety, a gutter, a sharp object for Bob Michael's group to be able to react, for Nick's group to be able to do district-wide projects such as single point of entries, hardened vegetables, cameras, paging systems, technology, vehicles. All of those things are outlined. I will tell you, anything that's past 25, 26 it's a placeholder. We are already starting to work, and we changed the plan based on all the stuff that's happening. So the next year that we'll be bringing you a plan probably just right after the summer next time, and just get it out of the way now that we have all of the school innovation projects set and everything golden. So you'll be getting this much earlier next year, but those out years are simply outliers and are subject to change. So this is your capital 5-year plan.
So because of all that movement, you're not going to see the norm like floors and roofing, like we had before?
So I think Mr. Westenberger, our director, has invested in stock in Prilosec. Our commitment is still to do what we need to do. So we will have flooring projects. We will have roofing projects. We started those earlier, as I shared with you. We're doing the roofing project at Liberty during the year. We did the one at Osceola during the year because we can do it after hours, and it's not the heat of the summer, and it's not the rainy. So yes, we will have projects that we will have to do, but we have minimized them, and we have coordinated them around the projects at the Schools of Innovation. And just remember, when you pass the budget, there was an increase in the roll forward, and that was very strategic, and that is what we are using. We're not canceling other people's projects that were on the books. That's what we're using to be able to move these schools through a very strategic planned budget process.
Anybody else? Okay.
The next item is your surplus property. The only difference this time, there's only 4 vehicles, 2 20-year-old cargo vans, a 19-year-old cargo van, and a 16-year-old F-150, and that's from when we did the vehicle upgrade a while back. We'll be gov dealing those or for whatever we can get spare parts. They're very, very in bad shape, as some of you have seen them rusted out. However, there is an extra section this time that you'll see on the surplus, and it's called Transportation Stock Item Delete. So we go through, Gary Crombacher, many of you have met, he's our garage mechanic. He goes through those items. Let's say you had, I'm gonna make this up, 10 oil filters for a diesel bus and they were 40 bucks a piece. You got $400 of inventory sitting on the shelf, and we don't have diesel buses anymore because those are 8-year-old oil filters that we didn't use. We write those off, it's about $4,300. You'll get rid of them and he'll gov deal them for whatever he can get to somebody who still has that model bus. So you'll see a deletion of about $4,300 of transportation stock inventory from their warehouse on this surplus as well.
So I'm laughing at the rusting out thing, because that was me, and I called and said, you know, we got a truck that looks horrible and it's rusty like crazy. I said, you should put a sign on the back that says your tax dollars at work.
The last item is just an extension with our civil engineers. So in February of '23, the board passed a 3-year contract with some civil engineer companies, Carter Associates, Masteller Moeller, MBV, Schilke, Biddle and Stoddard for engineering services. The statute changed and raised that limit from $4.5 million to $7.725 million. That's the max project we can use under that. All of those vendors have agreed to extend the first year of 2 optional 1 year, which is good for us because the terms and conditions stay the same. And Madam Chair, those are all of my items.
Okay, so before I close it out, just 2 things. I attended the Treasure Coast Council Local Governments meeting, and, you know, they had a special guest on there that's involved with the new proposed data center down in St. Lucie that they're proposing. Boy, is that going to be something. We need to pay attention to that. If you've not seen the stuff that the governor has put out about data centers and the harm or the concern that's there,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see what's going on with that. The other thing I attended was today, there was the Central Florida Consortium workshop, and those occur once a month, and all board members are invited. It's usually on Mondays at 9:30. But they need to be noticed because all board members are invited. So if we can make sure that that goes to Dorian as a requirement that those are noticed in case anybody else wants to get on there. Because they did, like today, they were mentioning how Brevard County is using, they were the presenters, and they were using, they were providing what you're looking at doing, which is providing courses for parents that have vouchers to sign up and take, and so it's money coming back to the district. So they have some pretty good things that they're doing up there, and there were some others that shared about what they were doing across the state. So it's really kind of interesting what they're proposing there. All right, with that,
No,
yes.
one more thing, sorry. I want to go back, if I may. I have a question for Mr., for Jaime, sorry. Going back to that agreement with the sheriff's office, I was just looking at the agreement. If you look at section number 5, it says that this agreement shall be effective beginning October 1st. And that was when this was first drafted, but I think that that needs to change.
I think we could, I spoke with Amy, I think we can handwrite that in as for,
Yeah.
oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, because when this came to us at our last workshop.
December 1st.
In December, something else that was brought up that I don't see here, which was part of what I wanted to ask as well, was that we would have first right of refusal, and I don't see it here. I don't know if it was
Check under
added.
2A,
2A?
purpose and under 2, purpose and intent, the last sentence starts with shall.
There's no
Section-
2A, there's just 2. Does it
2, yeah,
matter?
the last
Just 2?
sentence starts with shall,
Such,
such.
such use shall be subject to the school board's discretion and availability of buses.
And then the same
Okay,
thing was added in
okay.
4A.
Yeah, and which one?
4A?
4A? All right, I see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Dr. Jones?
I don't know if every board member received this. We received a message from Joe McGee. He's our legislative guide at FSBA with some attachments. And encouraging people to email about Schools of Hope. It's- I
That's
think-
the one I had
I know.
forwarded to you guys.
Oh, okay, I just got this
Yeah.
about 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Anyway,
that's the one I was referring to earlier, that it's a call to action. Please, please, please contact our legislators. Let them know we need to change. Okay? Because right now, the only two bills that have been proposed, I don't think will fly
Nope.
personally, because I saw what was being presented, and I won't say anything else, but those are total revokes of the bill. I don't see that happening. But I think that we need to encourage them to bring it back to the original intent, which was failing schools. So that, we have all discussed that that's kind of our commitment to push, so please do that. Please push it. All right, with that, I'm going to call this meeting to an end at 1:15. That's a record.
Dr. Moore, you'll get to your meeting.